Victor Davis Hanson is an esteemed writer and thought leader, also legal background. He's someone who, at Stanford University and other places, really explains much of how our world works and specifically goes to the heart of issues pertaining to political discourse. And over the weekend, he made a post on X that really has got a lot of people talking. I want you to understand the thoughts he shared and how we can use them to inform our discourse as we go forward after the attempted assassination of a political candidate and former president, Donald Trump. So he goes into the blatant exceptions that have become normative in our culture. And this is a custom that we used to have, which is public figures. You just don't imagine them dead. We will go back to far back history in the last century where you saw John F. Kennedy killed. He was literally gunned down, an assassination because some of his views about war were unacceptable. We've learned a lot more about that since it happened, but it was something that rocked our nation. It was a pivotal moment in history. We've also seen many of his family members assassinated, all due to politics and different ideas that have been held. But the most consequential thing is when we then moved into a later part of that same century and saw Ronald Reagan shot and multiple attempts on his life. And so since then, we have had some of the roughest political discourse since the founding of our nation. It's always been a back and forth, but now we're talking about something that's a little bit more insidious. And that is the idea that you can demonize one individual and their supporters, making it possible for people who don't have good critical thinking skills and control over their decision making to then say, well, it would be okay to take this person out because that person is so dangerous to us being alive or people living in the country or children. And that's the language that you see surrounding Donald Trump. The exception to the rule that we do not say it's okay to kill someone is Donald Trump. Not only have we seen Hollywood elites and stars, I mean, we're talking about dozens of them who said that we'd like to see President Trump dead. It would be better off if he were killed. But it's also our own elected officials. It was just 6 days ago that President Biden on a call said that it's time to stop talking about the debate and put a bullseye around President Trump. He said that to a large group of donors on a call that were taking him to task about his debate performance, and he attempted to pivot to putting a bullseye around Trump. This was widely reported in the media. Politico and other major news organizations shared that information. And I want to call back into question some of the people, as Victor Davis Hanson has, who were made absolute ridiculous. They were made ridiculous by their attempts at comedy surrounding previous presidents. The rodeo clown who wore an Obama mask during a bull riding contest, he was punished by being permanently banned from the Missouri State Fair. Do you remember that? The game, it's a parlor game among leftist celebrities. Sometimes they look like they're joking, but it doesn't look like a joke when the person that you're talking about eventually ends up being shot. Robert De Niro said President Trump should be slugged. Kathy Griffin said he should be decapitated and put that image up for herself. Shakespeare in the Park said he should be stabbed. And it was also Marilyn Manson who said that. Mickey Rourke said he should be clubbed to death. Snoop Dogg said President Trump should be shot to death. Anthony Bourdain said he should be poisoned. George Lopez said they should put a bounty on Trump's head. Pearl Jam said Carrion should eat his corpse. Larry Wilmore said he should be suffocated. Madonna and Moby both said that the president should be blown up. Madonna said they should blow up the White House, in fact. Johnny Depp said just a generic killing would do. And Reid Hoffman said, yeah, I wish I had made him an actual martyr. So is that okay with you? What we see as a result of that is that people are acting on these horrible suggestions. The imagery, the vile commentary. People are attacking this man visibly, verbally, and now physically. So I want everyone to think about that as we talk about political discourse. It's not okay to say these kinds of things about Hillary Clinton. She's a presidential candidate at one point, or former President Clinton, her husband. It's not okay to say these things about George Bush or any other previous sitting president. It is only Donald Trump who is allowed to be made into a mockery and set up for ridicule that has evolved into death wishes and death threats. That is a travesty. That doesn't belong in our discourse. Yeah, we have freedom of speech, but when freedom of speech veers off into the realm of actually causing harm to other people, it's no longer freedom of speech. It becomes hate speech. It becomes something that's much more dangerous, as we saw over the weekend. It was an actual, it was mind blowing. I remember feeling every emotion there is to feel in watching the video again and again and again. Had Trump not turned his head just ever so slightly to his right to look at a graphic on a big screen, that bullet would have entered his head, and we would not be talking about an assassination attempt here today on this program. So we need to think about our own words. And if you're on the political left and well, he said this and he said that, nothing President Trump has said has resulted in anyone attempting to kill anyone else. And he doesn't advocate for violence. Get outside of your news bubble. Start watching some programming that doesn't align with what you believe. On the right as well, we should watch what the people on the left are saying about our political candidates and about us. The demonization of half of America and the presumed nominee for the GOP cannot go on. We don't want anyone to die. At least I don't. And I think that people on the left who started to have trend on Twitter, he missed. It was trending on X over the weekend. He missed. They were actually celebrating the fact that President Trump had been shot at and wishing that the shooter had been a better shot. That's unacceptable as well. If you know people like that, you should let them know how unacceptable you find that conversation, that rhetoric, that discussion. We're not supposed to wish our political enemies death. We're supposed to wish that we can best them in the arena of ideas, to stand up to their ideas with our own and best them with the better policy positions. That's the extent of the war that we're supposed to be waging in politics. I find everything that happened over the weekend to be utterly disgusting and outside of the realm of what I thought was possible in this country. And my hope is that we never see it again. One more thing. There was the trend about the staging. A lot of Americans are still saying this. And over at Semaphore, it's a news organization, Katia Goba was writing about top Democratic strategists pushing reporters to consider the fact that the shooting might have been staged. Now, obviously it wasn't, but they actually had a conference call about this, my friends, to solidify language surrounding the suggestion that the shooting was staged, that President Trump set it up, that the Secret Service cooperated in that, and that what we saw was something that he did to get better images and to create sympathy for himself, to eliminate some of the things that he's going through, court cases, polls that aren't going his way, etc. It is absolutely ridiculous that anyone would think that they would come within a centimeter of death in order to get better photos. What I think actually happened is they underestimated the true grit of a 78-year-old man. Donald Trump was shot and laying on that stage, and there's an image of him. There's blood pouring down his face, and he's at a place of realization that he just missed his own death. He literally was almost killed. And so he stood up and raised his fist and told the crowd to fight because people were screaming. People were wondering if they should duck for cover. The crowd was in a disarray. And he called them back to order by telling them to fight. It was a good thing for him to do because the people there needed that reorientation. And it certainly wasn't fake. We have more for you. In fact, up next, we'll discuss political tone and rhetoric right here on Stacey Washington Now and Salem News Channel. And don't forget to tune in tonight for our coverage of the RNC. More to come.